I didn't raise you to be a failure. My father's voice echoed through the room, loud enough for every guest at the table to hear. He pointed at me like I was some shameful mistake he wished he could erase. I just stood there, holding back tears, while everyone stared. Some pitied me, others smirked. Even my younger cousins looked embarrassed to be related to me. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, like, share, and subscribe. This story will shake you. It was my grandfather's memorial dinner. The entire family had gathered, dressed in black, pretending to grieve. But behind the fake sympathy, there was tension in every corner. My dad, Bruce, had already started drinking too much. That's when the conversation shifted to Grandpa's will. He hadn't revealed it to anyone before his death, and the room buzzed with whispers. Bruce, confident as ever, leaned back and laughed. "Let's not waste time. Obviously, everything goes to me. Leah's just, well, she's a nice girl, but she's done nothing with her life." I clenched my fists under the table. I wanted to scream. He knew I had struggled. 3 jobs at once, no help from anyone. When Mom died, he checked out emotionally, and when I said I wanted to start my own business, he laughed in my face. "You'll never amount to anything," he said back then. "You should marry rich. That's your only shot." Now, here he was again, humiliating me like a joke, in front of everyone. My stepmother twisted her wine glass with a smirk. My half-brother, Kyle, whispered something to his fiancée, who burst into giggles. I felt like I was sinking into the floor. But then, the lawyer cleared his throat. He had been silent the whole time, watching. Now he stood, opened a thick envelope, and looked directly at me. "Actually," he said, locking eyes with my father, "there's something you all need to know. Leah isn't leaving empty-handed. In fact, she's the only one who gets anything. Your father left everything, and I mean everything, to her." The entire room went dead silent. My father's smile vanished, and I just stared at the lawyer, heart pounding, wondering what was about to be revealed. My father's jaw dropped. For the first time in my life, he looked speechless, confused, betrayed, furious. "That's not possible," he finally muttered, his voice shaking. "There must be a mistake. Why would my father give her everything?" The lawyer, a calm older man named Mr. Reynolds, didn't blink. He pulled out a document and placed it on the table like a loaded weapon. "Your father updated his will 6 months ago. Leah is the sole beneficiary. She inherits the house, the land, the savings, the stocks, everything valued at over $11.7 million. Gasps exploded across the room. My aunt nearly dropped her wine glass. Kyle stood up so fast his chair scraped the hardwood. "Wait, what? Grandpa left everything to her?" he shouted. "She's a barista. She lives in a tiny apartment. She's nothing." And there it was. The truth of what they all really thought of me, spilling out with their shock. I looked around at the faces I had grown up with. Not one of them ever believed in me. Not when I struggled through community college. Not when I tried launching my first product. Not even when I skipped birthdays and holidays to work double shifts. My dad stepped forward now, his voice full of fake calm. "This has to be some kind of joke. She's not responsible enough for that kind of money. I'm his son. He would never do this." Mr. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. "Actually, he would. Your father said, and I quote, 'Bruce has always cared more about appearances than people. But Leah, she never asked for anything. She earned everything I'm giving her.'" A stunned silence fell again. That's when I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice wasn't. "You know what hurts the most? Not that none of you believed in me, but that you all wanted me to stay small. You laughed when I failed, ignored me when I cried, and now that I've been trusted with something real, you're angry it's not yours." My father stepped closer, his voice suddenly low and threatening. "You think you can handle this? You don't know the first thing about running anything. You'll blow through that money in months." But I looked him dead in the eyes and whispered, "That's what you think, but I haven't told you the full story yet. Grandpa didn't just leave me money. He left me a key, He paused. A key to what? I smiled, for the first time that night. You'll see. The tension in the room turned electric. Everyone stared at me, trying to read my face, trying to figure out what I meant. My father's fists clenched at his sides. A key to what, Leah? He demanded again, this time louder, angrier. I leaned in just slightly. To the office downtown, the one you all thought was abandoned, the one Grandpa told no one about for over a decade. Now Kyle's face twisted in confusion. That weird old building? Wait, I thought that was just some dusty storage place. I nodded slowly. That's what you thought. But inside that building is the tech startup I've been building for 3 years, the one Grandpa secretly funded. We worked side by side, every weekend, every night. While you all were off vacationing and mocking me for working a dead-end job, I was creating something real, something big, Aunt Marla scoffed. You? Please. Leah, you don't even have a business degree. I smiled. I don't. But I built an AI-driven analytics platform that's already signed contracts with 2 Fortune 500 companies. Our valuation last month? $28 million, and it goes public this fall. Dead silence. My father sat down slowly, as if his knees had given out. Number, you're lying. The lawyer raised his hand and pulled out one last folder. Actually, I was instructed to deliver this to Bruce personally. He handed it over. My father opened the envelope and his face turned sheet white. It was a formal buyout offer from my startup to purchase his logistics firm, a firm he had spent 20 years building, a firm that had been bleeding money for months. You were going bankrupt, I said quietly. Grandpa knew. He gave me the funds to acquire your company. Not out of pity, but because I built something better. I'm not just your daughter anymore, Dad. I'm your new boss. He stared at me, stunned. Then suddenly he laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. You think this is revenge, don't you? You think this makes you powerful? I didn't blink. Number, this isn't revenge. This is reality catching up. The room burst into chaos, people shouting, arguing, demanding answers. But I stayed still. I didn't need to say more. I had worked in silence. I had built in shadows, and now I was the one holding the entire family's future in my hands. The shouting faded into background noise as I stepped out onto the porch, finally breathing the cold night air. Inside, my relatives were unraveling, years of fake smiles and hidden envy boiling to the surface. But none of it mattered now. For once, I wasn't the black sheep. I was the storm they never saw coming. Moments later, the front door creaked open. It was Kyle's fiancée, Emily. Her eyes were wide, her phone still in her hand. Leah, she whispered, I just Googled you. Of course she did. Her voice trembled. You're everywhere. Forbes, TechCrunch, even Wired. That AI software. It's yours? You built it? I nodded. She looked like she'd just seen a ghost. Your startup's been featured as one of the top 10 to watch in 2025. You're not just rich, you're famous. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She stepped back slowly, then ran inside and yelled, Guys, look her up! Within seconds, the energy shifted again. Phones lit up around the dining table. One by one, their expressions changed, from confusion to disbelief to horror. My aunt gasped. My cousin's mouth hung open. And my father, he just stared at his screen, frozen. That's when the call started. First, my uncle tried to pull me aside, suddenly concerned about how the family could be involved in future growth. Then Kyle asked if I could consider merging operations with his startup, which I knew was actually a failing app idea. I looked at them all and said one sentence. Where was this energy when I was building in silence? Dead quiet again. My stepmother scoffed. Oh, come on, Leah, you're still family. I turned to her, calm but sharp. You told my dad to cut me off. I heard the voicemail you left him 3 years ago. Stop wasting money on her. She's hopeless. Remember that? She went pale. Everyone turned to stare. Then Mr. Reynolds, The lawyer stepped forward one last time. There's more. Your grandfather left a video message. He asked it to be played after the will was read. He opened a laptop. Everyone went silent. My grandfather's face appeared on screen. He looked tired, but peaceful. If you're watching this, I'm gone. Bruce, Kyle, everyone. I hope you've finally seen Leah for who she really is. She's not loud, she's not flashy, but she's smarter than all of you combined. She worked when no one helped her, and she never asked for anything. That's why she gets it all. And if you have any pride left, you'll apologize. The screen faded to black. Tears welled up in my eyes, but not sadness, relief. I had spent my life trying to prove I was enough. Now, I didn't have to. I walked back into the dining room, and for the first time in my life, they all stood up when I entered. Not out of respect, but because they didn't know how to face me anymore. The silence was heavy. Guilt, regret, shock, and fear. Bruce, no longer Dad in my mind, looked at me with eyes that had aged 20 years in the past 20 minutes. Leah, I know I wasn't the best father, but I did what I thought was right for the family. I looked him straight in the eye. No, you did what was comfortable for you. You used shame to feel powerful. You crushed me every time I stood up. You told me I'd never be anything, just so you could keep control. But you don't have that anymore. His lips trembled. So what now? You want to punish us? I shook my head slowly. I don't have time for revenge. I'm too busy running the legacy Grandpa entrusted to me. Not just the money, but the values you forgot. That landed harder than any scream ever could. Then, to everyone's surprise, I turned toward Mr. Reynolds. Transfer ownership of the family house to my Aunt Clara, I said, and set aside funds for Kyle's college loan. He needs a second chance more than he needs pride. Everyone stared at me, stunned. I continued, but the company stays mine. And Dad, you're welcome to stay on, if you're okay working under me. You could have heard a pin drop. Bruce looked like the ground had cracked beneath his feet, but eventually, slowly, he nodded. Yes, I understand. And just like that, everything shifted. That night, I didn't sleep. I walked into the old office Grandpa left me, unlocked the steel door, and stepped into the place where it all began. The servers hummed softly. My desk lamp still flickered. My journey, once hidden and lonely, now echoed with purpose. I had built something real, not just a company, but myself. They laughed at me. They mocked me. They dismissed me. But in the end, I didn't need to destroy them. I just had to outgrow them, and that's exactly what I did.